And we are live. It's a great day. I'm out on the West Coast, enjoying enjoying my time at RSA. It's been super interesting. Glad to be here. I just want to welcome our special guest, Randy Lariar from Optiv. Randy, can you introduce yourself to the audience?
Hi, everybody. Randy Lariar. I'm the director over our big data and analytics consulting practice. So we help our clients with any number of big and streaming data problems, and are big fans of our partner Cribl, helping solve and enhance data environments across Fortune 500, 1,000 large clients, small clients, you name it. They all have data problems, and we're here to help.
I always enjoy Randy as my regular partner in crime in the live stream, talking about just thought leadership topics around the security data space. Always appreciate your thoughts, and I think it's super important. And also, in partners like Optiv in general, I think just being able to reach out to as many prospects and customers as possible, and just helping people with their trouble, I think is just incredibly important.
Yeah, it's as a data nerd and someone who came up, doing all sorts of data things. It's nice to be on the consulting side and just help solve problems. Connect people who've been there, done that. See, there's an easier way. There's a lot of clutter. There's a lot of operational inefficiencies, and anywhere we can help, with a tool like Cribl and different kind of strategies and plans to bring some order to chaos. We know the value, we know the power, and it's very exciting to see that come to life with our client environments.
It really is something. And just, the thing that struck me, I've been at RSA all week, see the marvel of the marketing that is RSA. There is the super marketing of the API security and the XDR and the AI this and the AI that. But the best part really has been talking to prospects, customers, talking to admins, talking to security leaders in the jobs, when I was a customer. And the complexity that teams have to deal with today is mind-boggling and also breathtaking. The having to stitch together data from factories, from office buildings, from data centers, multiple clouds, thousands of applications. Don't even get me started on the SaaS environments in order to get some sense of, are we secure? It is a mind-boggling. It just and this, since so much of this week, so much, that's just talking about tools, we're talking about strategies, talking about pain, how it can help. And I think those are something I kind of want to talk with you today about, because it's concerning seeing this upward growth of, okay, we're going to buy a tool to solve a problem, but have you made your solution better? Have you created a solution that you can support? As is the complexity of what you're doing so much that you can't get your arms around it. Are you seeing that kind of thing with your clients, Randy?
Yeah, I mean, we've been through the ringer the last few years in terms of what's producing data, right? You have, all the work from home, COVID, shift to SaaS, shift to cloud, all of that has exploded. The number of logs and information coming out. You have a tremendous amount of cybersecurity tools. I think prior to the recent kind of economic slowdown, the average size was north of 70 per customer of just different things plugging in, sending in log data, perhaps not even configured correctly to send in, some debug mode information, just a lot of garbage kind of coming in. Now, we're seeing a lot of recent acceleration of AI capabilities, and of course, large language models, lots of different AI tools, that stuff should all get logged. And it's just really increasing the amount of content that's being created, the stuff that has to get sorted through, the decisions that need to be made. And so complexity is just sort of scaling, up and to the right in almost a vertical line. And so, the truth is, even with a title like big data and analytics, the important data, the decisions are very small. You need to know yes or no. Are we secure? Should we spend more on this? Should we focus more on that? Are these the vulnerabilities that could end our business or put us in a lot of trouble, or are these just numbers and colors on a dashboard? And so we see a lot of drive, especially with a bit of an economic contraction. Consolidate tools, to think about simplicity, to think about first principles of what are we here to do in the data and in the security team? What value do we provide, and how do we use data to tell that story?
I think that's really well said. It's critical to think about first principles. You said, what are we here to do? Are we here to collect data? Are we here to spend money on tools? Are we here to try, solve a problem? Also, what
Yeah.
is the problem?
And
And
we're
that
not here to guess it either. You know, it's when you have a lot of data and it's a lot of mess, you can say you're data driven, but you're just guessing. It's no better than if you have no data. So, you know, in terms of how do you use that data and feel confident that that data is actually tied to the reality, that's that in between of too much, too little, just right is what you really need to think about for your organization.
Right, and that's why I'm just a big advocate of simplification. I mean, we literally had someone say, "Yes, we have 3 EDR solutions deployed in our environment." It's like, "So you're getting value from all of them?" And that's, that's an open question. Those are the kind of things where you can't turn on a dime in a large enterprise. So, especially through acquisitions, having 3 EDRs is not terribly hard to do. But you need a strategy of, okay, through the acquisition, but 12 months from now, it's going to be one EDR solution. So that way we can focus the 3 admins who were running the 3 EDR solutions on one solution. So that way we can get better at it. We can tune the tools, we can get better results, we can get better value. And that's, so it's not only is it just simplifying, getting better value for your program, but getting better value for your investments, just like you mentioned. People are very concerned, and they should be concerned about the cost. But that's why I think just strategy, people, and process is so crucial. And just buying a tool is not going to solve your problems.
Yeah, that's the dirty secret about data analytics AI. It's all people, right?
Yeah.
Without a good strategy, without enabling people to make good decisions, thinking about the processes by which things come into your environment, they get used, they get reviewed, they get updated, they get retired. That whole life cycle is a people life cycle. So it's really important again to be able to answer the people who have the questions. Your investors, your stakeholders, your leadership, that those people have certain expectations, and so translating all of the noise into a meaningful signal is key.
And just you mentioned in data, having a process to review your data quality and constantly test it, constantly adjust it. If you're doing anomaly detection, make sure you have the capability to adjust your baselines as your data changes. Something I found out in my past life with the hard waves, the business logic and application change, it threw off all the baselines. And so we had to hurry and figure out how to readjust our baselines in order to reflect a new set of logic.
Hmm.
Requires constant testing. After that, that's for every one of our big data strategies. We had weekly and monthly canary test, and then are we going to get the expected result? Because this, it's just there's no magic bullet.
No, and a lot of people think when you automate a control, you automate a risk, you eliminate it, but you actually
Yeah,
just shift it.
yeah,
And in fact, you might amplify it if you replace a person or a kind of more logical step based heuristic to detect a risk. Another thing we see in a lot of the AI machine learning kind of use cases, um, a lot of times it's a black box, right? So if you are doing an anomaly model, how well do you understand that base case and how much flexibility does that give you? And what happens when that's wrong? And what do you do? What's the fallback? So a lot of this stuff, powerful tools, powerful data sets. But again, I think there's had been a rush to put lots of stuff in, or there's acquisitions and whatnot. But if it just sort of sits there and doesn't get tuned, doesn't get optimized, doesn't get tested for quality, over time it's just data debt, and you end up paying for it at the worst possible time, when the minutes and seconds matter.
I did a live stream with a good friend of mine about Chat GPT, and we were talking about the wonders of there's some really interesting things there, but there's also some really huge problems. And I'm still flabbergasted, and I've seen security people who are just inputting in corporate information into Chat GPT. And it's like, okay, so you're putting potentially proprietary information into a public source. Really, is that a good idea? And this I'm waiting for this large language model to evolve into a private model where you can use it internally in a corporation. Because I think that over time there's real value there if you can train it on your data and the way your corporation talks to each other. But the things still have to keep evolving, and you have to have a way of measuring it, have to way of understanding the output. 'Cause I'm sure you've noticed how
Mhm.
you have really weird interactions with these LLMs, and that there has to be a way of understanding what's happening here.
Yeah. Well, the LLM is just the latest, kind of most publicly facing. ChatGPT's gotten a lot of attention, but there's a lot of AI models that are black boxes, right? There's various ways to test and understand what they do, but when you talk about an open-ended language model,
Right.
just a number of ways things can go in and out. And so It's a real concern. It's something, we've said for a while that AI needs governance, needs monitoring, needs controls, and it's not just Chat GPT and LLMs, but all of it. There are ways to monitor that and log that down and threat hunt against it, right? To understand what your environment is doing. There are now, private models that some companies are starting to put into their environments to kind of mitigate that, privacy, copyright, lawsuit risk. But even so, just back to that theme of this is going to let you automate some stuff. You're not automating and eliminating risk; you're just shifting it. And so, if you start to use an LLM or a different type of AI model, even large machine learning models, if you don't really understand the different failure cases and you don't have kind of plans and processes in place to put a human in the loop on that, there's potential for disaster. And so it's very important. And then again, I think this is as ChatGPT has kind of driven a lot of top level awareness. A lot of companies are scrambling to put in AI features. What are those things doing, and how are you logging that information? Because that's just going to be a whole new stream of data that comes into your environment, and it's going to be pretty critical because some of that will be driving some core business functions. So it's always a good time to start your data strategy. The best
Yeah.
time was yesterday, but the second best time is today.
Exactly. I saw some really funny things, some of the interactions with the LLMs, especially ChatGPT, and I could just imagine where you're as a security engineer and you're running through you're running through various options, you're asking your LLM what to do, and it gives you some weird output about relationships or something like that. It's just I saw a great thread on Twitter with Ion Storms was he integrated log scale with ChatGPT and using it as a way to help drive, okay, here's a detection, here's what you do, it helps step a junior engineer through how to handle a case. And I thought that was a great narrow window of how these AI models could help accelerate productivity. And to me, I look at it as, the real value is small things like that. It's not gonna, it's not it's the LLM's not gonna detect the problem, resolve the problem, then tell you about it later. It's, that we're not quite there, and I'm not sure we'll ever get there. But a million small interactions is where I think it could be really helpful.
Well, and it's where we all add
Yeah.
value, right? As professionals in cybersecurity and in data. Today it's a small problem. Maybe tomorrow it's a medium problem. We are not here in our jobs to copy information from Excel into PowerPoint or to type emails that just explain what the system is telling us. We're here to think, about the risk to our business, about what this could mean, to make sure these automations and models are driving business value and are protecting us from business risk. And so in a way, it's almost everybody in cybersecurity is getting a promotion, right? You didn't want to do the menial task. Well,
Right.
there's an AI coming to do that, but the question is, what are you going to do with that new capability? Now you have the ability to think kind of bigger picture about what does this mean for the business? What things can be automated? What things can't be automated? And again, it's all garbage in, garbage out, especially if AI is driving a bigger and bigger part of your organization, having kind of governance, quality rules, processes for what the data is doing and how it's being used, what is acceptable use, and has controls, and what is unacceptable use, and has risks and could be punishable by a very stern talking to by your manager or worse. So there's a lot of stuff to figure out in this space, but to me, it all comes back to fundamentals of data strategy and governance.
So I really like how you put that. I think this is going to take, you have a lot of people in a lot of jobs who they do what they do every day that literally could get replaced. And I think those are the things is you have to think in the higher order and get beyond the menial tasks, get beyond checking the boxes. Think about how many people spend their days just filling out third-party risk reports. And it's like in collating reports and putting a PowerPoint together from your third-party risk reports. Those are the kind of things that I mean, I think that's a perfect target for an LLM. But
Yeah.
it's you're
But we
as a
need those
professional,
people now to help us like get the
right?
data right, like
Right.
understanding where you have this job to correct something because some other system is putting data in a way, and no one's ever done the correction of fixing that pipeline or put in, Cribl or another tooling, right? Like it's time to raise your hand and say, hey, I think this could be automated. Let's try it, but we need to fix this thing in order to do that, and work on solving the bigger picture. Because even if you are spending today every doing that, you have familiarity and hands-on experience in a way that no one else does. So again, if your company rushes to automate, um, transfers that risk. It doesn't go away, and maybe your job goes away if you're not, thoughtful about what can you do now to add value in your company and think about the bigger pictures.
Exactly, and that's where I think that you can add value is get beyond just collating information. Actually, now I want to look at the information. I want to understand the information. I want to talk about is the third party risk, where does it rank in my hierarchy of things I care about? Because unfortunately, we spend too much time gathering data, not enough time analyzing data. And I think that that is where by automating and getting rid of the gathering data task, we can spend more time on things that are more important. And that's something I hope people really focus on because
Yep.
it's just as you said, we were measuring ourselves as data driven because we have data, not because how we're using the data.
Right. Another thing too in cybersecurity, in a lot of cases, we have sparse data sets, right? Basically, most of the time, 99.9% of the time, there's not a hacker in your data set or there's not malware doing something bad. And so models tend to lag when there's not a lot of training data. I mean, the latest generation of large language models and transformer based techniques do get around some of that by having better ways of training them than just pure example driven. But there's always going to be a lag of we've never seen this type of threat before. So of course the model won't detect it, or it will assume and hallucinate that it's something else. And so again, there's appropriate use cases and features for this type of stuff, and then there's ones that are still going to require human expertise. But you will be blind to those needle and haystack moments if you're just looking at a pile of pardon my language, hot trash.
You were
Very
being very
spicy.
kind, very very kind. There you go. Yeah, and that really is it. Really is a thing. It's just how do you do this? How do you manage it? And especially in security, when you don't have the examples. That's why I mean I've seen anomaly detection to be the best way to drive that. I work with so many data experts, especially my last job when everyone was a data expert. You're trying to use language models and AI to solve things when you didn't have clear indications. There wasn't an event that said I am a hacker. And so just that behavior analytics is so key
Yeah.
to trying to get any kind of results.
Yeah, especially to say what is normal, right? If you do have a good sense, you may still need to review some things, and we've done a lot of projects and looked at that where it's there is something in this pile of data, and we need to go through it with a human eye or with a subject matter expert or a lawyer or a person who intimately understands the system. Can we use models and can we use techniques to remove all the stuff that is definitely not that? And create a more efficient way of going through and doing the human approach. And we see that a lot too with like threat hunt and looking at kind of big repositories, all the data that you've routed through your SIM over the last year. Looking for that needle in a haystack and trying to do that in a way that the query performs and returns a result sometime this year. There's a lot of stuff that goes into making that performant, and it's important because these things are not occurring every day and they're not announcing their presence. So you need to have that kind of consideration as well in your architecture and strategy.
That's something we should do in our next live stream is go through the steps of how do you understand this? How do you understand what's normal? How do you try to identify this? Go through that whole threat hunt process and upgrading your detection pipeline. Because those again, this goes back to you've got to keep reviewing your data because it's just subtle changes create some really significant downstream effects.
Yep. Another common thing that we see quite a bit of is drift, right? So there's model drift where you've trained a model to do something, and something can change that model is no longer as predictive as it used to be. There's also the data drift or the schema drift, right, where different fields and information might be coming in that's different from when you first set up your pipeline. And so having an ability to review your pipeline, have quality checks on it, having a helpful UI where you can see what is being parsed and how is important, not just at the original setup, but ongoing, again, people process governance to look at what's happening with your data to make sure that as the world changes, as the things that enter your environment change, all the models and automation and capabilities you set up a year ago are still relevant today, and you can update them to be ready for tomorrow.
Yeah, and that was one of the biggest drives I would talk to engineers about Cribl that the ability. So a lot of questions about analytics, but the way I talked about it was so much of analytics is built by consistent, well formatted data, and that's where Cribl helps. Is that gather the data, normalize it, and keep it consistent. because so much of your analytics and queries and searching is all driven off that. And dirty data that's not normalized, it's in all sorts of different formats, it's not enriched. It creates real barriers to getting value from your analytics. And
Yeah.
so, but you have to start from that foundation.
And I'd say, there's couple stats out there, right? First, like 78% of statistics are all made up on the spot. So don't take my word for this, but um, probably true. 95% of any kind of analytic project is standardizing and normalizing the data and getting it ready to provide that result. Back to your example, 3 different XDR solutions, 3 different outputs, signals, things that need to be normalized and standardized. And happens every single day. Every company does this, builds the solution in a way that doesn't scale or isn't retained for the next person.
Exactly.
And it's a huge suck of resource and energy. It's something, hopefully there will be AI models that help to navigate and document this. But it's important to solve these normalization and standardization questions of data so that you can do the analytics, so that you can answer the question, and so that you can go back and ask new questions without having to rebuild the entire structure of the thing that you use to make the first answer.
So one big question I want to ask you as we get ready to close our live stream. I think that security and operations engineers should adopt more of a data mindset. This is something I would challenge leaders to do, is especially in security, to hire someone with a data background, a math background, who is not a security person, in order to be able to take these, like you're talking about, to being able to cleanse and be able to prep and be able to understand your data, be able to check it, and also not have your bias. And that, I think, that helps introduce the statistical type of statistical analytics capabilities that are needed for the future into your security team. So I think it's important that you have to bring in new skill sets. And what do you think about that?
I agree. It's important to include them in your team. I wouldn't also discount the benefit of diversity of every which way, right? Not just background and ethnicity, but people coming from different fields into cyber have different perspectives, have an open mind. You certainly do need a statistical approach. You need to know how to work with data, but I think that there is definitely advantage to coming from other fields as well, and thinking about it in that terms. Having had some exposure to marketing analytics and streaming data as it relates to bid management and ad serving in the advertising space. Very different use case, but at the same time you need to have microsecond decisions on actions to take, and there's different data sets and models and concepts, interdisciplinary benefit of having that kind of a background or exposure. So definitely, I think writ large around the world, we all need to be data driven because there's just so much noise, right? That our companies are a small version of the world, and all the noise and importance of critical thinking and statistical thinking that way. So that's certainly important, and something I hope that my son picks up along the way in his schooling. But yeah, I think that thinking about diversity and big picture of how to get lots of different perspectives into your security environment is also key to try to stand out and figure out the thing that you're not thinking of that could be the downfall.
Yeah, absolutely. I get it. So tell me a little bit about your team, what you do, and then we'll close out the live stream.
Cool. Yeah, so we are a team of seasoned data scientists and data engineers. We work quite a bit with large clients who have multiple terabytes per day streaming into their SIM or into their security data lake environment. We help with the architecture. We help with the migration. We help stand up tools like Cribl to route and refine data on the way in. And then we also do the model building and the anomaly detection, and the configuration of different outcomes that need to happen with data. Along the way, we play a little strategist, and we also tap into other teams at Optiv who have experts on different regulations and privacy, and on strategy and risk. And so we partner cross practice to deliver outcomes, to provide the data strategy that drives your cybersecurity forward, or to think about the ways to enable automation in detecting for certain kinds of risk cases that our colleagues in other practices might come up with. And so just a bunch of data nerds having a lot of fun solving problems, and always excited to engage with Cribl and see all the fun developments happening over at RSA.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. Always been impressed with what your team does. I'm looking forward to keeping working with y'all, and I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Ed. It's great to be on.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, so thank you for everyone's time. Really appreciate it. I think it's an illuminating conversation of things to think about. I think it's so important to date and to keep building on a data mindset, even in security. It's important, I think, to also hire people with different backgrounds. Consider hiring someone who really understands analytics, machine learning, who may not even have a security background, to help bring these help your teams adjust to a new world. I mean, data is everything. It absolutely is. So I want to thank you everyone for your time, and look forward to the next live stream. Thanks, Randy, and have a great day.
Thanks, you too.